listening to Frank Skinner's podcast from Absolute Radio.
And this is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Alan Cochrane. You can text our show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter at Frank on the Radio, or email the show via the Absolute Radio website.
Lovely to have you back, Frank.
Thank you, it's lovely to be back. It's terrible that Muhammad Ali has died, a major part of my growing up. I was just watching him on the telly there with, there was a guy called Howard Cosell that used to interview him quite regularly. And Howard Cosell once thought the way to handle him was to use big words so that Muhammad Ali wouldn't be able to know what he was talking about and slightly put him down a bit. And Ali was saying, I'm so marvellous, I'm the greatest of all time. And he said, you're very truculent. He said, I don't know what truculent means, but if it's good, I'm it. Straight in. He also said that he was so fast that he could put his bedroom light off and get into bed before it got dark.
My kind of man.
He was. Exactly. Yes, absolutely magnificent. Getting up with my dad at 3 o'clock in the morning to listen to fights on the radio. Anyway, let's be light-hearted.
Yes.
Like
let's be light-hearted and talk about your son's party.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Sorry, I sound like I'm a bit...
you sound a bit snotty.
I am a bit snotty. I didn't want to use that word when people are having their breakfast. Or more likely, with our listeners, have hangovers.
Yeah.
Do you think they do?
Might be having their supper. They might be having their supper now before bed.
There's a high demographic of hangover sufferers, I think. Do you think, on Absolute Radio?
But this time on the Saturday morning, the whole country... I've got that... Do you remember those 2 return tickets to Nottingham advert?
Yes.
Which was an advert for Vic.
No, it's Tunes.
Help you breathe more easily.
Was it? Oh, yes, that's right. Do you still get Tunes?
Yeah, can you still buy Tunes?
Yeah, I think so.
They were like,
Can you still...
That's a very...
It's one of my favourite things.
Can you still... Does this still happen?
That's a very 70s thing to see. I mean, you'd only see them in a minicab.
I haven't seen them for a long time. I don't know if you can. They were sort of the medical profession's answer to Spangles, weren't they?
Remember a few weeks ago we were doing sounds that you don't hear anymore? You remember that? It was about 3 weeks ago. I went to see
gargling was one of them.
I think it was, yeah. I went to see a rock band the following week, and the next day I had the...
concert ears.
Oh, man. I really thought that had stopped, but it was back.
No, I don't know. That'll never go out of date. I thought you were going to say somebody said, Wally! I haven't heard that at a gig. And people used to shout Albatross as well. Do you remember that? Yeah, they do.
Did they?
People shout Alan now. Have you noticed that?
Alan?
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
At your gigs, they do.
Well, yeah, they don't shout it to me and Frank.
But it's also a thing. Like, it's a thing where people go, Alan! And then somebody at the other side of the concert goes, Alan!
No.
It's a thing.
No, it's not, darling.
It's just a really bad thing that I've got the name that is in question.
I didn't know that. Well, I've already learnt something this morning.
Frank, I've got a bit of housekeeping to do, which is your beef.
Is that why you're wearing that quilted housecoat?
I was surprised at that.
You've got a bit of beef with David Seaman.
Oh, yeah?
You going for dinner?
So... No, Frank was on a documentary.
I bet he loves beef, tell you.
And Yorkshire pudding.
Oh, he loves the beef. Favourite food, Frank?
Favourite food, steak.
Favourite drink?
Biggest influence on career, Dad. What would you have been if you were in a footballer? Electrician.
Favourite drink, Frank? What do they like?
Although they didn't own up to beer often, I think.
Oh, no, they said beer.
I think they said Top Deck Shandy.
Well, anyway... So there was a documentary this week.
In my experience of drinking with professional footballers, it's a vodka and Red Bull.
Can we not talk about my experience of drinking with professional footballers? No. But anyway, for the autobiography.
Well, mine ended at when we all went home separately.
Anyway, thanks for that, Frank. So there was a documentary this week, which, may I say, was very fine. When Football Came Home, was it called? Alan Shearer was fronting it, but you and David were in it.
Yes,
and you were marvellous. I cried.
Seen it, I must say, at this point.
I cried.
Oh,
and that wasn't
lovely.
just because of your clothes. However, on this documentary, you referred to David Seaman and you told an anecdote about him, didn't you?
I did.
Do your anecdote for us?
He approached me. I think it was we were at a premiere This is in the days when not only I got invited to premieres, but so did Alan Seaman.
David.
I thought you could
David Seaman, sorry. Who is Alan Seaman?
Alan.
Oh, yeah, I've got Alan on my mind. David Seaman is the bloke. Do you remember those crisps, Smokey Beckham and Salt and Lineker? Yeah. David Seaman was the guy who didn't get the phone call. Anyway, he come up to me and said, Frank, I've got something I've been wondering about. I was going to say pondering, but he wouldn't have said that. And he said, who is Jules Rimet?
Well, he says not. He was asked about this. Some fans were giving him beef about this on Twitter, and you know what he replied?
Go on.
He's a little liar, and wait till I see him.
Can't believe it. I would swear I'll take him to the European Court of Justice. We'll have to hurry up the way things are going. But there is no question that Alan Seaman...
David Seaman.
David Seaman. You've Alaned me up all morning now.
Alan Seaman this, Alan Seaman that.
David Seaman definitely said that. I suppose he's going to say he didn't let in that goal from the halfway line.
Oh.
Oh, the memory plays tricks.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Yes.
I'm just checking to see if we've had any correspondence from Alan Seaman.
Oh,
I don't think we have. No.
We have had correspondence, though. 869 has texted in, morning. Yes, I've a hangover walking the dog. Could you talk a little quieter, please?
Okay.
There must be another solve to that.
Another what? Solve?
Solve.
I've never heard that term before. I like it.
Oh, well, I like to mix up my syntax.
By the way, on the subject of who's out there listening, I met a woman this week in Hereford.
Oh. I've been to the pig auction there.
Have you?
Genuinely.
Did you get one?
I didn't buy one.
Oh, okay.
I was browsing.
What's the point of going? After you'd bought that estate car especially to get it back home.
Window shopping, were you?
Could you would it be legal to just put one in a passenger seat with a safety belt on?
I don't know, I've got some friends who own 2 pigs, so I'll ask them.
Yeah, but they've got quite small pigs. I don't know if that would work.
No, they were miniature pigs when they bought them, and then they found out they were done. They weren't miniature pigs. Anyway, that's another story.
Okay. So they end up buying the whole hog.
Oh, lovely, Frank.
Anyway, you
met a woman.
There's a guy called... Yeah, and her husband, who's called Rodri, listens to the show. I think he listens live as well. And he's a remote area medic in Kurdistan.
Wow.
Which is a job and a half. So we don't do those sort of... We don't do shout-outs on this show, because all our listeners have got hangovers. They don't want that kind of volume, as we've established. But Rodri, if you're listening in Kurdistan, we love you for being a remote area medic. Does that mean he just does people's private parts? I have to get to the remote areas clinic myself. They said Germany would have done it, wasting my money.
Frank?
Yes, darling.
Are we ready to talk about this party?
I don't normally call you darling, by the way.
I quite liked it. Because I was there, and I should say, during the show last week, I mentioned it, but I didn't go full forensic.
Okay.
As I felt,
that you weren't on the stand? The witness was not on the stand?
I wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Well,
because from my perspective, there were some extraordinary things going on.
Yes, my son, who's called Buzz, after Buzz Aldrin, who I believe is at Waterstones today in Piccadilly, doing a book signing.
What's happened to this show?
Exactly. I just mentioned I have no. I don't get a retainer from Buzz Aldrin.
Well, I go through Time Out and read out what else is on in London.
Actually, I think I did get a retainer from Buzz Aldrin. One of his old bottlers I signed up. Working for me. Anyway, so my son was 4, and so I thought I'd have a birthday party for him. Now, the significance of this, particularly for me, is my first ever memory, as far as I can piece it together, was I remember sitting on the bed and saying to my mother, "I'm 4 today." It's a memory I can date quite accurately.
Yeah.
Unless
you were
of course,
just wrong when you were a kid, which also happens.
Unless I forgot the bit where she says, no, you're 14. I'll kill that typist. No, so I know, and I have a friend who knows about stuff like this, and he says children don't really remember anything until they're about 4. Right, nothing specific.
All right, Buzzkill.
Yeah, okay. So I thought, well, he'll remember this party, so I want to make it, I want to make it particularly special.
Oh, he'll certainly remember it.
Yes, well, I have to say, he loved it.
He did.
I found it one of the most stressful events of my entire life, including all my performing career on live television, enormous gigs, and this. Once seeing Catherine Jenkins approaching from the opposite side of the alley with a pitchfork.
Can I tell you, there was a moment when I realised you might be quite stressed, was when I overheard you saying to your manager's assistant, who said, "Can I get you anything?" And you said, "A bottle of brandy would be nice."
Yes. Of course, he knows better than to take me seriously on that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here now. But yeah, oh God. Other people's parties I've grown into as I've got older. But when you actually organise something yourself, you spend the whole thing just worrying about it. It wasn't until the first bin liner came out to clear up that I had a headache for the whole event, and it went when I realised that it was over.
You also got locked outside, and when we let you back in, you said, "Oh, well, it was better than being locked inside."
Yes. Yes, I was a little negative. Also, there was a woman cleaning up there. And I said, "Where do we put the bin liners?" And she said, "You must take them away. You!" I thought, yes, all right. See, the next sentence was going to be, "Because if the Nazis find them here." But she was so aggressive and unkind to me.
Oh, dear.
At that stage, she's lucky I didn't just fall to my knees and sob like some sort of...
Frank. Well, Buzz had a lovely time, except he had Same-Dress Nightmare.
He did, yes.
There were 2 Supermans.
That's the trouble with superhero themes. Yeah. Same-Dress Nightmare is always a risk.
That's a hazard, though. That's, and life will deal him, the skills to cope with that, I think. It's a good early lesson.
No one went to Clark Kent and then became Superman later. But, they're 4.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So I hired some entertainment for my child's party. I won't.
Can we say it was age appropriate?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Last time you mentioned entertainment on this show.
I won't name them because I'd like someone else to fall for it. They were.
I thought they said about you last time with the Brits.
I was a bit disappointed. I'll be honest with you.
Oh, that's a shame.
You were, weren't you? You made that quite obvious.
Yes, it was 2 people. A man and a woman. It's not relevant where they came from, but they had that sort of Bela Lugosi accent, right. and they did I'm going to call them songs.
Right. I was songs from the old country, I'd call them.
I was speaking to your friend John. And he was a witty fellow, and he was when they played Hakuna Matata, because I'd requested some.
I didn't hear that. I thought that was
you did hear it.
We just didn't recognise it.
Which Boz, to his credit, recognised it. But I'd asked for some. They'd said, "Do you want us, any requests?" And I said, "Well, he loves The Lion King, so do that." And John said to me, "It sounds like they've never actually... that someone's told them about Hakuna Matata rather than they've actually heard it." He also said to me in a very actor way, they're saving themselves, these lot. They're saving themselves. And the reason he said that was that one of the first things the woman said to me was, "We must start now." And I said... God, a woman hasn't said that to me in that accent for years. And I said, "No, there's only 4 children here." She said, "No, but we have a rehearsal with
And
Britain's
one of them
Got
was
Talent."
me without heels. Sorry, Frank.
So we have a rehearsal with Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I thought, well, they're putting a second, but they're going to be amazing. I don't know how they got on. But, no, I mean, I don't know how on earth they got on. But, so they... how can I put it? They had a matinee feel to them.
Right.
They felt, yes.
Saving some energy for the late show.
And they also kindly offered to supply the goodie bags.
Right.
I would say they redefined the whole concept of the goodie bag. You know,
They were quite minimalist.
You know when you watch a cop drama and they have that bag that's things from the crime scene?
Oh, yeah.
It was like that.
A forensic bag or
Just with like a bit of fingernail and a sample of some blood from the clothing. It was like that.
Well, that's not true. There was a lovely 24-page photocopied booklet about how you could hire them.
Oh, yeah, there was. Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
Their brochure was in there.
A brochure.
Yeah.
But other than that, goodie was not the word, was he? Baddie. Is there such a thing as a baddie bag? Yeah.
There was
Like a swag bag.
a brown bouncing ball. I didn't know you could buy brown bouncing balls.
How was
No.
it fun? How was
What
it fun?
worried me is they had 14 rabbits in the van. It was, but, you know, the kids didn't seem to notice, and that's the great thing about kids.
Frank,
And
you
that's
did
also, of
take
course,
it-
what children's entertainers so often rely on.
You did take it very seriously. At one point, you were wandering around so stressed, and you came over to me and went, "They're just not playing to their audience."
No.
I know, but Frank, it wasn't a corporate. I mean, they were 4-year-olds.
It was, it's one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. And if they're listening, thank you so much.
Skinner, Dean and Cochrane. Together, The Frank Skinner Show.
Absolute Radio.
So anyway, I continued the week by taking my son away, and we did lots of activities, which were, I have to say, all the party was a success, amazingly. But I did
That's
something.
not the spin you've given it so far. I'll be
No,
honest,
well, because from where I sat, I could see there were many terrible things. Well, there was one terrible thing,
Right.
although two. But
You didn't have a go at them because you felt sorry for them.
Well,
though.
I was going over to have a what the hell was that, and then the woman was so apologetic, I slightly
You
crumbled.
apologised.
Yeah.
Really?
She said, "I've never done it for this many children before. I was very nervous." She said, "I think there were some good moments,"
Oh, wow.
and I said, "I think I missed those."
Oh, wow.
And then she
Not
looked
the first time
pained,
you said
and then
that.
I thought, "I can't continue. I can't handle." So
Yeah.
I said, "Look, it's fine."
They got their £8 each, yeah?
So, no,
Yeah, but
it
Frank
wasn't-
had a dilemma, Al, because he was torn between not thinking they were good enough to continue performing, but also wanting to get his money's worth.
Right.
So complaining
Awful.
that they weren't doing the full hour, as he kept
Terrible
calling
dilemma.
it. I booked them for an hour. They're not doing the full hour.
Well, it's the,
I want
He was
more of this
honestly
thing. I
saying
want more
this.
of this thing I don't like.
No,
Because I paid for it.
is it a Groucho Marx thing when he says the food's terrible here in such small portions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was like that.
Yeah.
I wanted my pound of flesh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, I didn't want a big argument scene at a children's party.
Yeah.
That
And,
would have been.
you know,
Well, you
did
shouldn't have
feel
invited
a-
me then.
Did you feel a slight performer's kinship of, hey,
No.
we've all had tough
I
gigs,
felt a
guys.
performer's kinship, thinking I would have done better than this if I'd have done it.
Yeah. I mean, some of your stuff is not for 4-year-olds.
No,
to be
but you
fair.
know what? I would have modified it. I reckon I could knock up an Hakuna Matata.
True.
Anyway, it was done with. So then we went on, we did stuff, and I did something I hadn't done since I was about 15. I rowed a boat gently down the stream.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
And,
How was it?
Tiring.
well, it was... I realised I'd learnt nothing from all those years on the disco floor.
Oh, yeah.
Going up. So I'd learnt... I sort of thought that might have given me just a general sense of rhythm.
Yeah.
That's sort of a mini head start.
Not
Yeah.
transferable skills.
I've always thought that it was the popularity of that song that led to our years of rowing domination in the Olympics.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's something else.
Do you?
Yeah, I
You
think
think that's Rolex?
I think it was rowing. Yeah.
I think it was lack of available books to read or something.
No. Well, yeah, maybe. But maybe is there a pastime where people have to lean forward and then lean back again?
Yeah, but let's not talk about that now.
Okay. So I thought, well, you know, I know I've got that. I know what you do. So the first thing I got on, and someone said to me, "Excuse me, you're facing the wrong way." And I've had that shouted at me before as well. And I said, am I? I said, isn't it? It's pointy bit first, isn't it?
You didn't say that.
Yeah. Another one of my catchphrases. We've got to stop. We've got to stop doing this now.
This is turning into absolute Phil.
It is. So I ended up. This is how I was told to sit in the middle of the boat.
Sorry, was this just a well-wisher or someone responsible for the boat hire?
Well, I was at a rather exclusive resort.
Yes, I think I've been there as well.
In Oxfordshire. And so the rowing lake adjoins the swimming pool and a place where people sit outside and drink, I'm guessing, Bacardi and Coke.
Right.
They had that look to them.
No one drinks that anymore, Frank.
You know the Bacardi adverts with the beautiful people? It was like that. And I arrived as if Jamie Vardy had arrived in a rowing boat. And they said... So I ended up... The pointy bit was behind me. So I was going backwards. Now, that's what this bloke... It sounded like he'd yachted. So he probably knew.
Yeah.
But the trouble is I couldn't see where I was going.
No,
now, Bozu was sitting facing me. Remember, he's 4 years old. He kept leaning across to try and see past me to see if there was any bikes coming up. Every time he leaned, the whole boat... I was wearing a life jacket, and so was he. I wore a life jacket. I mean, this thing was next to the swimming pool bar area, and I had a life jacket.
And it is about 2 feet deep, that lake.
I was so frightened. It was a bit deeper than that, maybe 4 feet. But I was terrified. So, and the other thing, I've always had this thing, and maybe if there's any of our readers might know this, what's always worried me about a life jacket is, what about if when it takes its flotation moment, if you're facing downwards?
Yeah.
Will it then keep you facing downwards?
No, it tips you onto your back.
Are you absolutely sure?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't prepared to risk that.
No, you don't want to test it.
No, but, so I ended up going backwards. The pointy bit behind me, I couldn't see where I was going. And I had a series of incidents.
Uh-oh.
We'll come to that.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We've had an email from Sarah, and it's entitled Children's Parties. So I thought, Frank will probably want to know. Maybe it's some useful advice or some comradeship in the world of children's party throwing. Hi, I'm unable to sympathise with you, Frank, re children's parties. I have twins. The horror of organising their parties has scarred me for life. Still, on a brighter note, you've got this for at least 10 years, Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
Cheery, isn't it?
Well, at least she gets all her eggs in one basket, as it were. That's not a gynecological statement.
That's how she got twins, yeah.
No, but I mean, you know the fancy dress. You know they're going to be Jedward every year.
Jedward. Not Batman and Robin. You went for Jedward.
No, he's got it. Batman and Robin don't look that similar. That would be weird.
Might not be
if Batman and Robin were twins. That'd be because wouldn't there have been quite a big row about? Well, hold on, why do you get to be Batman?
But the twins might not be identical.
And then there'd be a huge row, and I was in therapy for the rest of my life because I had to be Robin.
I'm 3 minutes older than you. Well, so what? And that makes you Batman. Forget about it.
Was that a big thing for boys then? To be Batman instead of Robin?
I went to a West Brom away game at Queen's Park Rangers, and there was a tradition that we all wore fancy dress at the last away game of the season.
Oh, please tell me you didn't go with Adrian Childs.
And Adrian Childs I went with, and he said, well, let's go as Batman and Robin. I didn't even bother asking. I just thought, OK, I'll get my Robin outfit ready. He wouldn't have considered for 1 second that I could have been Batman and he could have been Robin. Oh, man.
Yeah, it sounds quite
I've had my fill of them.
Have you? Breaking news.
Yeah. So anyway,
Chris Davis is on the Twitter, is very impressed, saying, I love that Frank knows all the nautical terms, the pointy end.
Yes, but is there any more? Well, perhaps Chris Davis was that?
Correct.
Chris Davis could maybe tell me if that's correct, that when you row, the pointy end is behind you and you go backwards. Is that how you're supposed to row?
Oh.
Yeah. Because it has... Why are there no wing mirrors on a rowing boat?
Well, that's a good point.
Because that's exactly what I was desperate for, a wing mirror.
Well, just use your compact, that's what I do.
Couldn't you just check your blind spot?
I didn't have my compact. I don't powder anymore. It gets on my collar. Especially if you've got a coat with a fur attachment.
Couldn't you just do an over-the-shoulder glance like a motorcycle?
I was too frightened to do that. I thought if I do that the whole day, I'll be trapped underneath it. Remember that bloke that was trapped at sea for about 3 days underneath his boat? I thought about that.
You were in a lake in a private members bar.
I know.
That you could have waded out of.
I don't know if I'd have got help. There's a bit where I got stuck next. I literally got stuck next to the outside swimming pool.
Oh, that's not embarrassing. Who was in there? Melvin Bragg doing laps?
No.
I mean, how embarrassing.
It had 6 people in, 3 men, 3 women. There were 6 of the most beautiful people I've ever seen in my life. And
Worst places to be stuck.
But what is it about...
How humiliating.
What is it about the posh that even if they're just in their swimming costumes, you recognise them as being posh before they've spoken? There's just something about the way they stand and their look very long-necked.
And
very long-necked, yeah.
And their swimming costumes are made of that red corduroy that poor people can't buy somehow. You know?
Well, I didn't... But I was literally... I'd got myself trapped against the swimming pool outer edge.
I can't bear this. It's like Nellis the gamekeeper.
And I couldn't work it out with our life jackets on. And these people go... and they got no help from them. They were literally too posh to push. So I was stuck there for probably about 4 minutes, and it just looked... I felt like I was some bloke who'd just come in to have a closer look at these women in their scanties. But it was... and I had to use the oar to push myself away, and I couldn't get very good purchase.
Do you think they thought that maybe you'd just come awry and you'd been on a canal in Birmingham and you just ended up there somehow?
Maybe they did think... If they've heard of Birmingham, they might have thought of that. Or they might have thought it was Skinner's about. Finally, Jeremy Beadle had been replaced. But, dear, it was so difficult. But I genuinely would like to know if I was facing the right way.
OK.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So that when I finally got back to the sort of landing area, I couldn't work out how I could reach across and actually tie it to the, moor it, as they say. Mm-hmm. It was very moorish.
Yeah.
I thought if I move across there, the whole thing's going to tip up. And obviously Buzz couldn't help. So I called across. There was a guy having a sort of a cocktail.
Turned out to be Alun and Tom.
And I said, excuse me. And he said, yeah. I said, could you tie that... I'm sorry, but could you tie that rope?
You didn't?
Yeah, and he was okay about it. And I said, could you help my child to get out as well? He's only 4. So he took his hand and got him out. And then he looked at me and he said, do you want me to help you out as well?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, I do. So he actually took my hand. I got up in my life jacket.
That's weird.
And climbed on.
You had a humiliating climb down whilst climbing up.
Yeah, exactly. But if that man is listening, thank you so much. I
like that you had the life jacket on.
I know.
I mean, Frank.
The anguish of it. But I tell you what I did do at that same place. When you check in, you're not in a hotel. You're in like a cabin on the ground.
Oh, it's cabin in the woods.
Nice.
It's lovely.
Sounds really nice.
And one of the things that you get is a bike each.
Right.
Well, as you know, I'm not a big cyclist.
Although you can ride on 2 wheels, but
I had a lesson
that put you off.
It was about 4 years ago. I had a lesson.
Right.
So I thought. Kath kept saying to me, why don't you ever go on the bike? It was one of those gearless bikes, like what the hipsters ride.
Fixie.
Was it a fixie?
It's pale green, and they look lovely.
But I was too frightened to go on it. And even Buzz was saying, why don't you go on it, Daddy? I said, no, I don't. So he was on his with his stabilisers on. It's all right for some.
Yeah.
And eventually, on the last day, I decided to give it a go. So I got on my gearless bike, no helmet. What do I care? And I started. It was fantastic.
Oh, good.
I really enjoyed it. It was brilliant.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm so
I know that's a slight late review.
It is cycling.
The bicycle.
Enjoyable.
Did you stay upright then?
I did stay upright.
good
yeah,
boy.
which at my age is not easy. But the great thing is, I had a suit on.
Oh, that's nice.
And so I didn't feel I was part of those men that have to wear the lycra and look like they're ready to kill.
Lycra, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was so happy and proud of myself. And when I got back to the cabin, having done 2 circuits of the estate, Boz, my 4-year-old son, applauded me.
Oh, you'll do anything for applause.
It's the best applause I've ever had in my life.
The Frank Skinner Skinner Show on Absolute Radio. Back Saturday morning from 8. Tune in live for the full Frank experience.
Absolute Radio.
This is the Frank Skinner Show on Absolute Radio with Emily, Dean and Alan Cochrane. You can text the show on 81215. 81215. Follow the show on Twitter at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via the Absolute Radio website.
Hiya.
Hiya.
That's my new catchphrase. What do you think?
I think it was originally used by Susie Walker.
Married to Ian Walker.
Married to Ian Walker, the Tottenham goalkeeper,
Yes.
who was one of the great champions of a hairstyle, I believe, that was known as curtains.
Oh,
Yes.
I had curtains, yeah.
She had a programme which Frank and I think, are the only human beings ever to have watched.
Was it a programme or was it an
Hiya.
insert?
No, it was a programme called Hiya with Susie Walker.
Yeah, Hiya with Susie Walker, and it began with, you can guess how it began.
Yeah, I can.
God bless her. Where is she now? If you're listening, Susie, drop us a line, 81215.
Well, hang on.
Even if only to say,
Hiya! Hang on, we're still waiting for David Seaman to drop us a line. No word yet.
no, well, he's racked with guilt. That's why.
Calling you
No,
a
he's
liar.
busy. He's busy
Calling
with
you a
that
little liar.
dancer.
He's finally Googling Jules Rimet before he texts.
I'd like to talk about Tom Hardy this week, if I may. He's been in the
Judy
newspapers.
Obscure?
You know, no.
Was he in Jude the Obscure?
No, Thomas Hardy. I think you were talking about. That was a late review.
You know, it's never occurred to me that Tom Hardy is the same name as Thomas Hardy.
Oh, really?
Well, I like when you said he's been in the newspapers. I thought
He
that
has.
was...
He has.
Okay.
I mean, the actor.
Idiotic eureka moment that was.
I mean, you know, the...
Yeah, I know.
I would say bruiser, tough guy actor. Is that a fair description? I think we talked about him last time when he was in Legend, wasn't he?
He
Playing
was-
both Craze.
One of
played
your
both.
favourite films.
He played
I
both
haven't
Craze.
seen. I haven't
Yeah.
seen, but I did moot that it would have been quite easy to sign him up for that. I don't think the agent was. I don't think there was much haggle because he would have loved playing both.
I
Craze.
know, but it's quite clever to think we'll have the same.
I still
you
think
know.
he did it for equity.
I believe
minimum.
he's playing
Oh, yeah.
He's playing both Batman and Robin
Is he?
in the next film.
Well,
He was in Batman, of course. He was he Bane? Is that what he was called?
Oh, I
Was
don't
he?
watch those films, darling. He was. He played a friend of the show, Charles Bronson.
He did. He did play Charles Bronson, the prisoner, rather than the actor.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the actor himself has said that he regularly replaces burner mobile phones, which are the cheap ones that you can buy that are sort of untraceable or less hackable.
This is new to me. I've never heard of a burner.
The phrase
mobile
burner would have been popularised by the television series The Wire, Frank, which a lot of people would have watched on box set.
Frank.
But you're again the box set.
Also, Al,
I am.
and
it
the
doesn't
American
surprise me
television
that
series.
Frank hasn't heard of burner mobiles, considering he wears a life jacket in a rowing boat.
Yeah, true.
Well,
True.
do those two connect?
Well, I just think you're not on the...
So you buy a mobile phone and keep it for how long?
It doesn't say exactly, but I imagine about
Ish.
15 minutes, and then,
Yeah.
then you
What?
get another. Yeah, I think he
What,
just
like
constantly.
no, that's contact lenses.
He says...
Oh, is it my mistake?
Can I
Sorry.
tell you what he said?
Yeah.
He says it's the only way to prevent being hacked, and he said, we're burning numbers left, right and centre.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of upkeep.
Extraordinary thing to say.
See, this is how the Nazis, they're burning books. What does he mean he's burning numbers? So he changes his number a
He
lot?
changes his number
Yeah.
every single time.
Oh, if you're
And then he
his
sends
mate,
out a
you'd be
text
constantly
saying-
getting one of those, this is my
Exactly.
new number.
This is my new number, TH. He probably doesn't even put Tom Hardy in case people
No.
don't read it. Or he might even put T.
H, might just put.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might. Just
I was confused, Al, when he said...
People would think it was him from Steps. Could you, in the world of mistaken identity, could you make a bigger error than getting Tom Hardy mixed up with H from Steps?
What's this? The guy who's H from Steps is playing both Craze.
And Charles Bronson.
That would be the worst casting of all time. I mean, don't get me wrong, H from Steps is not a man without talent. I've heard him sing, and he sings like a bird.
And I believe
believe
he
it was-
pronounces it H from Steps as well.
Oh no,
H, does he?
He doesn't. He can't.
does.
I don't believe that.
He guess what he said, Thomas Hardy? He
Uh-huh.
said, I don't touch iCloud. I've been advised not to by my security specialists.
I'm
and
with him on
analysts."
that. I'm with him on
Wow.
that. I try and avoid iCloud, and my mate mocks me because we were once trying
What's
to
he
get
called?
somewhere.
Mocks me.
My mate mocks me, yeah. He's my mate took the Mickey. He took the Mickey old school because we were driving somewhere and I had my phone and he said, "Oh, just put it in Google Maps or something." And I said, "I haven't got the location thing. I'm not doing that." so I don't like them knowing where I am.
Wow.
And he went, "You need to grow
Blimey.
up." Now I've joined the location services thing, but I
Frank,
thought,
don't say blimey like he's Kim Philby.
don't
mean,
like
it's
it.
not that.
Can I just say, by the way, on the subject of H, while we're on H steps,
Yeah, H.
I interviewed Sarah Cox,
Oh, yes.
and Sarah Cox she was baptised Sarah Cox with an H on the end of the Sarah,
Oh, yeah.
and she dropped it when she started modelling because it sounded a bit cooler to not have the H. And I said, you must have saved, over your lifetime, you must have saved quite a bit of time on autographs.
Yeah.
From the fact, and I said, if we contacted H from Steps, found out how much time he'd spent on autographs, you could work out exactly how much time you'd saved. I mean, it's a fabulous calculation. So if you're listening, H, drop us a line. Sorry, I jumped
No, I
in.
was just going to say, I find it slightly extraordinary that he does have security specialists. Is that unkind of me? Because he's in Peaky Blinders. And he's got
films.
security specialists.
Well,
Is that
I
necessary?
don't have. I'm very password one myself. I always think the one will fool them. They won't think to try that at the end.
Across... Oh, I see.
So I always have password one on everything.
You really shouldn't be saying this on the radio.
Why have you just told us
Okay, I'll
that?
change it to password two. I'll never. I mean, they're never going to work that out, are they?
No.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
I'm with Tom Hardy on this. I think people are too liberal with their security. They just sort of flop about through life and they don't think. I've got a little thing that I do that I'll share this with you guys. Top tip here. When I stay in a hotel, which is quite often, I fairly frequently put my trainers right behind the door so that if an intruder comes in, they trip up over them. or get caught. You know, the shoes get caught. You know, like when you come back and like the kids have left their wellies right behind the door.
You can't get the door out.
Can't get the door. Like, oh God!
When
And
you
that way-
travel with a wedge,
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
I'll get you a wedge.
Oh, thanks very much.
I'll saw you one off.
Thanks.
I'll get you one.
I could make you one at home.
Well, I don't know. It's
No.
the extra luggage that puts me.
Oh, I'll make one from a balsa.
Oh, okay, that's
Nice
fair
and
enough.
Do you
lightweight.
genuinely put those trainers up against the door?
I do, yeah, because I
Sort of
think
gangland styling.
I think it makes an intruder less scary if you think that they
Why
become
don't you-
like an angry dad, like as they walk through. Go, oh, who's left their shoes behind this door? That's not as terrifying.
Why
as
don't you
just-
sleep by the door? On the floor?
Isn't that scarier?
Well, that would wake you
Wouldn't
up.
they get to be quicker?
That would wake you up. They'd fall over. They wouldn't be able to open the door. You're hitting so many
Yeah,
buttons with that one.
that's a good point. Never
Yeah.
thought of that.
Anyway,
Or I could sleep on the other side of the bed and make a fake Alan out of cushions in the bed.
Alan.
Alan!
Yeah. And then there's a bang on. It turns out it's just mocks me. Coming to say if you fancy a beer at the bar. Mocks me! Legend!
I'm also concerned about Tom Hardy's security specialists / analysts.
Right.
Because presumably he pays, quite
Top money.
substantial sums to these characters. And the advice they've come up with is throw away your phone, which doesn't seem terribly sophisticated. I could have worked that out.
Well, I mean, I what I've seen of Tom Hardy's work is very fine. But I don't know, has he got something to hide, Tom Hardy? Because I'm not that. I don't think I have anything. I'd be that bothered. I mean, you say Tom Hardy. I say Tom Hardy. Let's call the whole thing off. No, I can't leave any information which I'm that bothered about getting out there. I mean, obviously, I don't want someone to steal my identity.
No.
It would be a bit awkward when they turned up here on a Saturday morning.
I think we'd be onto them in a flash, though.
Not if it was Stephen Tompkinson
No, true.
or
With his
Graham
cap
Norton.
on. No, well, somebody bought £11,000 worth of jewellery in Fiji with my credit card number. I remember. Yeah. Just mentioning that. It's gone a bit tense. I'm over it. Yeah, it wasn't.
Jewellery?
Yeah,
Oh.
it wasn't me.
Lovely, Frank. All right, Shaggy.
Yeah. So I wouldn't want that, but I can't think of anything in my private life that's that.
Salacious.
Well, most of it I talk about on here. But
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I
think
don't know, you know, he's got, has he got kids and stuff?
He's got a child. I think he was concerned about his parents having, like, their phone calls listened to and stuff. There's
Look, he knows
collateral
best.
damage of fame, isn't there, I guess?
I have to say, what I see a lot now in crimes and stuff is that the police tell you what they've Googled
Oh, do they?
recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it'd be a bit... So I had to look through my Google history to see what I'd be embarrassed about.
Oh, yeah.
And 2 weeks ago, I listened to, on YouTube, I watched the video for The Passengers by Elton John.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
You know that one?
Yes.
Why
Why did you listen?
How does it go?
Deny the passenger who want to get on.
Want to get on. You want to get on. Yeah, and I don't know if I'd want that in the papers. But there you are, I've said it on here.
I wouldn't want it in the studio when it's happened.
Another passenger.
Deny the passenger.
You see, I thought it was another You never tell with Elton.
Certainly not tell with you two.
Yeah. So, apart from everything else was things like Patrick Troughton marriage.
That's so depressing.
Well, do you ever look at your Google history? It's much duller than you expect.
Not in my case.
You say Tom Hardy, I say Tom.
Skinner, Dean and Cochrane. Together, The Frank Skinner Show.
Absolute Radio.
During that song, I popped down to reception and signed a delivery for £11,000 worth of jewellery from Fiji for Frank.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long time coming, I must say.
Has that actually happened? Have you got security measures in place? You're not really using password 1 and stuff like that, are you? Tell me you're not.
I'm going to say no, I'm not.
That's perfect, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, we rehearsed that to put them off the scent. I think I'll be all right. I do that thing. I did it recently. I had to write something in public. And I was basically just writing down an idea I had for something, a sort of comedy idea. Mm. And I was on the train. You know, you have that
I like that you go on the train.
Yeah, thanks. And you know, when you sit with 3 people around you. And I actually did that thing of leaning on, putting my head on my arm, like you used to at school.
Oh, yeah.
So people couldn't copy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so paranoid, Frank.
Yeah.
He's right to be paranoid. How many people have said to him, I'm having that? Like
Exactly.
Pretty much every comic idea that
that's
pours out
true.
his
Well, I
mouth,
was sitting
people are
next to Joe
nabbed.
Pasquale.
Makes
but
sense now.
it works well. You don't need security advice. Just get your arm right across.
Yeah.
Put your arm across, yeah. I didn't like people that did that at school.
No.
No.
I
I
worked on
love
a
you,
different-
obviously, with all my heart, but, you know.
Well, that suggests to me that you were thinking of doing a bit of copying. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe.
Copying.
Yeah.
I find, you know, when you go to put the PIN number in the handset in a restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
I like when you get those waiters who are so they're so sort of professional about it. They turn away.
Oh, I like the look of Will.
I mean, as if I was unbuttoning my trousers. I mean, absolutely, I don't want this in my life.
They do have a sort of...
Get that PIN number away from me. I mean, they recoil, that's the word.
Yeah.
It is like you're performing a lewd act.
It's like people are getting changed at Wimbledon. You know, when the ball boys and girls hold a towel up and look away like that. This sort of that
Oh,
thing
I
going
never
on.
look away.
Well, when I do Frank Skinner on Demand, the popular chat show on
Well, hang on, we'll be the
BBC
judge of
iPlayer.
that. You can't say that about your own thing.
I say it's popular, I like it. I have to get dressed in situ, as it were.
Do you?
And I'm getting a lot of...
It's a weird rule.
There's quite a lot of female staff.
Right.
And I get a lot of those look me right in the eyes while I'm taking... I think they're all right with the trousers. When the shirt comes off, they're slightly appalled. But they do that look like... You know the breastfeeding look that you do when you look straight into someone's eyes. Nothing would move your eyes. If a ninja suddenly leapt, you wouldn't look.
Yeah.
I get a lot of that. I'll tell you what I would like to know, if there's any of our readers here who know about this sort of thing.
Yes.
You know when you put your PIN number into a thing and it goes... You know, it does. You get a little
tune.
note. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If I learnt what note belonged to which number,
Oh, what,
would
the
I,
dee, dee,
by
dee,
hearing, be able to hear what their PIN number
Oh,
was?
I love that question.
Could
Yeah.
please...
I
we're
absolutely love that question,
We're on
Frank.
8, 12, 15, or as I call it...
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We've had some text, Frank.
Good.
Well, we've had a tweet from Justin Walker who says, referring, Al, to, you know, you were talking about leaving your trainers at the
Justin
door.
Walker. Hiya.
To foil any potential intruders.
I think it's a good technique.
Well, Justin agrees. I'm with Alan on this. I also do the trainers/door thing in hotels.
Wow.
And then he's done an emoji of a little monkey covering his eyes,
Oh.
which I think expresses, I do
See
it,
no
but I'm
evil.
slightly ashamed of it.
Oh.
Well, that's see no evil. isn't
Daisy's
it?
a youth correspondent and she nodded.
Okay.
I see.
The Frank Skinner Show. Listen live every Saturday morning from 8 on Absolute Radio.
So that why it's specifically trainers. There's a suggestion that the tread on a trainer will get better purchase on the carpet.
Oh,
I think it's just what these people wear.
I just put whatever
It is.
shoes
I mean,
are to hand.
who's going out into the world in sportswear? It's absolutely outrageous. See, my leather-soled shoes will just slide along the carpet.
Athletic men like me and Justin Walker.
Yeah, okay.
That's who. We've also had a text.
Oh, can I just say, do you remember the one about
Is this
people?
a joke?
No, people used to take a hair
Oh, yeah.
and put it in their diary or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so if anyone had opened it, the hair would fall
know.
out.
Oh, I wish I'd known that one.
That was in the spy book that I learnt to tiptoe from when I was a young
Oh,
man.
when you got your tiptoeing technique.
Yeah, you
Oh,
got
wow.
to tiptoe on
Because
the
I
edge of the
had
stairs.
Osborne Book of Ghosts
Oh,
and similar things to catching ghosts. There was something where you would put, when I say catching, I don't know what you were meant to do with them once you apprehended them, but you would have to put talcum powder everywhere and then you'd see their footprints.
Wow. But when you get them, I mean, who are you going to call?
good question.
And what clothes are they wearing, Frank?
This has been my constant bugbear. How do their clothes come back from the dead? So there's a lot of naked spirits walking about. You think, actually, perhaps I wouldn't mind seeing one,
Yeah?
Yeah.
you know? If they're a bit of all right.
Yeah.
They're all right. Ghost lost.
Good point.
Ghost losters, it could be called. You can make a program.
Oh, ghost
About a
losters!
bloke who goes around throwing talcum powder over female ghosts just to say, whoa, she's all right.
You have so many ideas for television shows on here.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ghost losters.
Almost like your heart's not in radio that you have that many ideas.
Don't take that back.
We've got an email. Dear Miss Emily, Mr.
Just signed your
Frank...
contract, for goodness sake. It's the worst possible time to say that.
Don't say that to everyone on the air.
It's all right.
Okay.
Security breach, another one. Dear Miss Emily, Mr. Frank and Mr. Alun, please, 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 all caps, please, please, please stop saying PIN number. It's PIN, which stands for Personal Identification Number. PIN. What you are saying is Personal Identification Number. Stop it.
No, but
Oh.
can I explain? It's quite echoey, this studio. And we are just actually saying PIN. But then the N is echoing, actually forming the word number as that.
That's right.
As often an echo you find will sort of develop an abbreviation into the actual word. I don't know if you've ever tried that in a tunnel or in some sort of large chasm.
Agreed.
No, but this person sounds like, if I may be so bold, a bit of a git, and I like that.
Oh, God, I built my life on that. But yeah, it's a good point, I think.
Yeah.
I'll never, ever say PIN number again.
Oh.
You say, you just watch me.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Now, Frank, we've had some PIN news.
Ah, yes.
PIN number news.
Oh.
I'm sorry, everyone.
Sorry about that,
That's
Frank.
all right. Oh, you could hear a pin drop in there.
Team Frank, 1, 4 and 7 all have the same tone, as do 2, 5, 8 and 3, 6, 9. Presumably to help people who can't see buttons, like Roger Moore or the elderly perhaps,
Cinderella.
whilst avoiding the security pitfall you fear.
Oh.
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
is good.
So 147 is interesting. I bet you Willie Thorne advised the security services on that, the master of the 147 brain.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still... So you can narrow it down to one of three.
So there's 2 tones. Oh, what about 0? What are you gonna do with it?
Too much, too young. Right, too much. I just think, you hear about criminals. They always say about criminals that you'd expect them to be, you get the occasional burglar who gets stuck in a window story.
Mm-hmm.
But often criminals, you always feel that if they used their obviously sharp minds in the legit world, they could do well in that as well. So you think there wouldn't be a shortage of criminals clever enough to just learn the tunes.
Yes.
So you could stand next to someone and go, and think, I've got that. But what you're saying is he can narrow it down to 3, and then once you get 4 numbers, it's probably one of those, those mathematics things where you think, that's going to be 20 to 1, it's 48 million.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were the sort of, the man behind, I can't remember his name now, A Beautiful Mind, you might be able to do those sort of calculations. No, he's an actor.
Oh.
Who was the man he played? John...
I'm going to need to rewatch that film.
Oh, yes.
A whole different perspective.
We know who we mean.
Yes.
What I mean is, if you were some sort of whiz-kid mathematician, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be better than having a number system for Las Vegas, from a money point of view, probably.
I'm not sure it would.
You don't think so?
Well, it depends
Well, that's this week's text. What would be better?
It's a strange thing to fall out over.
Here's someone... I heard a better one this week, things to fall out. But
What was it?
2 people at a wedding I was at, and this actually got a bit unpleasant. I mean, properly, like a bit physical.
Oh, hang on, I'm just going to settle down by the fireside.
So it's not... I'm not making light of it, but what happened, the way that the row and the scuffle started was 2 men had an argument about whether Chicago house music had entered British culture via Manchester or London.
That is a
And they
good
got
row.
so aerated that it actually came to
fisticuffs.
at a wedding, yeah. After I'd restrained myself with the entertainers at my son's wedding.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Who'd have thought that could have happened? But, I mean, that's a bit of a unique one.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Alan Cochrane. Text us on 81215, please. Follow the show on Twitter at Frank on the Radio, if you will. And email the show via the Absolute Radio website, if you over mind to. As they say in the West Midlands.
Now, I'm getting a little obsession at the moment,
Oh, yes.
and that is with... Are you familiar with the work of Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
Oh, God, yes.
Very.
Frank, why are you delving into
Very
a plastic
familiar.
bag, like a pensioner?
Sorry, I'm all ears.
Okay.
As
Doesn't
Prince Charles
seem
would
like
say.
you've got your
It
full
doesn't seem
focus
like
on...
it.
I'm listening. Look, do
On
you want
the
me to
radio.
say
You
the
know what
last
you
thing
look
said?
like? No, but you look like someone getting out a 10x8 of Perkins outside Absolute Radio for a signature.
Sounded a bit narky then. Do you want me to tell you the last thing you said?
That's what I always do when I'm accused of not listening.
Anyway, I am quite obsessed by him, because he's something of a colourful character, isn't he?
Oh,
I think
he's-
that's... Can I say Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a fantastic footballer.
Yes.
That's just,
Right, okay.
That's true. After that, things get more complicated.
He's won a trophy every season he's played since 2001.
He says
Yeah,
something-
but is he in the Radio Hall of Fame? No.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Although... I
So
think-
he's in the news a bit here, because is it right, he might sign for Man United, is that correct?
Well, there's a rumour. I think it's because Manchester City's... I know a lot of our people don't like football because they're bookish types on gearless bikes. But just quickly, Manchester City have recently signed a man called Pep Guardiola, who's a famous manager. And Manchester United, obviously, their arch rivals, have signed Jose Mourinho. And they hate
I could
each
do
other.
20 minutes on their clothing choices,
Well,
those
they
managers.
hate each other of old, and the one way to wind up Pep Guardiola is to sign Zlatan Ibrahimovic, because
Right.
those two have also had a massive, massive falling out in the past. So I think it might be like if you live next door to Johnny Depp and you hired Amber Heard as your PA. It's just,
Yeah.
I think, because he's 34 now, Zlatan, you can't be brilliant forever.
He
Thanks
would
very
probably
much.
People thinking, listening to this, think, well...
But Frank, what I love is that he refers to himself constantly in the third person, doesn't he?
Oh, he does,
He said in a post-match interview, I started watching and then I became obsessed. Because he says, well, you know Zlatan.
Yeah, but to be fair to him, his book is called I Am Zlatan.
Yeah.
It's not He Is
And-
Zlatan.
Which
To be
I
fair
have
to
read.
you, we're talking about football and you've used the phrase to be fair.
Yeah.
Which I congratulate
At
you
the
on.
end of the day.
Yeah.
May I heartily recommend the book I Am Zlatan to anybody who might have any kind of low self-confidence problems, because it is like a holiday in a monstrously big ego, and you can't help but think, I've been doing myself down a little bit. I should be more confident, because it is just amazing.
Is it brilliant?
It's brilliant, yeah. It's a great book.
What's the best... Is that the best autobiography you've ever read?
It's up there. I mean,
about you?
I think it's
Well,
got
you
a laugh
know
out
mine,
loud in
Frank.
most
I've mentioned
chapters.
it before on this show. Don't tell Kathy in both of them.
Oh, yeah, but you don't
One of the best ones ever.
Do you
Now,
honestly
can I
think-
tell you what I genuinely loved? And this is a surprising choice, and I'm not being ironic or trying to be funny. I Owe You Nothing by Matt Goss.
Really? It's brilliant.
It's a brilliant... Because it's all about how they were ripped off. Your manager here, I noticed, his little ears are pricked up.
Yeah.
Because what happened, John, is they weren't told the difference between net and gross. So
Oh,
just so
dear.
you know, Frank, something
Yes.
to look at.
Well, my book's already with the publishers.
What's your... and obviously I love your book. That
No,
and
you
Matt
don't. No.
Goss.
No, you
Big
don't have
fan
to
of your
mention
books. Big fan of your books.
What's your favourite?
Tom Baker's autobiography.
Is that good?
People love that.
Absolutely
People
amazing.
absolutely love that.
Now, these, I'm guessing what we've got here is 3 autobiographies that even if you don't have any interest in that area,
Yes.
just some people tell a great life story.
Yes.
So I think that's it. Yeah, try them.
Okay.
Tom Baker's is absolutely
Try them. I'm not quite sure you can still get I Owe You Nothing by Matt and Luke Goss, but have a look on Amazon.
This is the age of eBay.
It's worth a read. Yeah.
I owe you nothing. That's what my that's the name I use in hotels when I check in under a false name. Mr. I owe you nothing. I think that would be spotted.
What about Zlatan's 14 tattoos?
He's got a lot. He's got a lot of ink.
2
there.
playing cards, red dragon, grey koi fish, feather. What's that all about?
Going through them all.
Buddhist monk, and only God can judge me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit basic, isn't
I've
it?
got to disagree on that. I once saw somebody who had Only God Can Judge Me on her tummy whilst she was shouting at her kids and smoking, and I thought, wrong.
Yeah, what about if he ever does Britain's Got Talent? Demonstrably untrue. I find the rise, I think, in multiple tattoos, the rise in that popularity coincides directly with the fall in popularity of the rough book. That's where we used to do all our doodles and stupid
yes.
sayings and stuff, and now the people just do them on their backs. Fools.
You're listening to Frank Skinner's podcast from Absolute Radio.
Little snapshot into the self-confidence of Zlatan is he was asked what he was getting his partner for her birthday. He shrugged and replied, "Nothing. She already has Zlatan."
Fabulous.
Oh, that's what you said to Kath. That didn't go so well.
Yeah.
There's
Well, 'cause
probably readers
she
out
didn't
there.
know that I knew she was having an affair with Zlatan.
Oh, imagine if she was having an affair with Zlatan.
Yeah, I think I'd probably leave it.
You know what I think? I think he'd.
I don't want to mention him about it. You'd only know when you saw her name suddenly appear on his arm after a match. Hold on a minute.
I think, though, he'd just committed that quite typical error of he'd forgotten his wife's birthday, and then someone asked him, and he thought, I'm going to face this out. I'm going as big as possible. Nothing. She's already got Zlatan.
No, but that thing about the birthdays, a lot of the tattoos he's got is his family's birth dates.
That's
Oh,
right.
so he
Now-
can remember them, like
So-
Prison Break.
No, but when you get the phone call saying, where's my card, you've got nowhere to go if you have
It's written on.
He, Frank, in
It's an
I
aide de
Am
memoire.
Zlatan, he tells us one of those... You know, he had quite a deprived childhood, but the story he chooses to tell, I didn't feel was the best example, because it was one of those we were so poor, ... And it was, we were so poor, my father and I had to carry a bed from IKEA. I mean, it's not that poor. I mean, they were in IKEA, they were buying a bed,
Yeah.
they've gone into IKEA,
Bear in mind
they've
it-
looked up, they bought the bed.
Bear in mind, he's Swedish as well, so they sort of live in IKEA.
I mean, it's not Dickensian deprivation.
No, you're quite right. My favourite We Were So Poor was a Milton Berle one. We were so poor we thought knives and forks were jewellery.
11 grand's worth, I heard.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I've got, down my left forearm, I've got password 1.
Oh, yeah.
Just in case I forget it.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any. Do you guys don't have tattoos?
We have done tattoos, yeah.
Have we?
I
Have you?
one.
Oh, you
We
have
did-
got one. Oh,
we
yeah,
did
I
talk-
remember
Oh,
now.
yeah.
We did talk tattoos.
I
in the
do
past.
remember now.
But I haven't got as many as Zlatan, and I haven't got
Katie
anything like
Potrick.
his
Katie
self-confidence.
Potrick on your forearm.
That's right, yeah. It's an odd one, but, you know,
It is.
big fan.
And I've got Nick Knowles on my clavicle.
I've not for the first time. I can't think of anything that I'm so confident will be in my life forever that I would commit it to ink.
Well, what do you love?
I know, but you never know if you're going to love something forever, do you?
Yeah, that's true.
You said probably, the most important thing in the universe to me is my 4-year-old son. If I have his name put on my hand and then he becomes a serial killer, I'm going to look pretty stupid.
Oh, think on the bright side.
Well, I'm just,
I think you should aim higher as a parent as well.
Well, I'm just saying a tattoo. It's, a tattoo is not just for Christmas.
No, true.
Just remember that.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We were discussing... I'll tell you what happened. Sarah, who is the assistant producer on this show, who is 23,
She was a centennial.
said she had never heard of a rough book.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I presume, I know in our regular theme of do you still get, I presume that rough books, it used to be a thing where you wrote your sort of work that you didn't want it to be seen by teachers,
Oh,
your
is that what it is?
preparation.
And you wrote things like
wasn't
Emily for Barnaby,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
for example.
It wasn't a terrible log of physical encounters.
When
that
she
I
said
kept.
she'd never
It
seen
was
a
for
rough
me.
book, I just lent a Bravo 20 by Andy McNabb.
It's a rough book, isn't it?
It is a rough book.
I loved a rough book.
It was good. I still sort of use a rough book. I have notebooks that
Frank?
I use for that very thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Sort of my
lovely.
initial thoughts.
Always
Yeah.
covers up his notes, though. He's writing. Got his hand over.
By the way, speaking of rough books, I've received what looks like a page from a rough book from someone called Esma today, who sent me, she sent me some pork scratchings, amongst other things.
Oh.
Result.
And a mug. Well, I am genuinely pleased
Yeah,
about
you
it.
look pretty
They're the
cheered
new
about it.
superfood.
There's only me and you in the room that seemed
not.
like
I
that's
was
a good
honestly
thing.
told. I was honestly told that they were a superfood because they're
Frank,
pure. They're protein.
They are not a superfood.
I don't think they're
pure
pure
protein.
No,
They are,
protein
why-
and fat. They must be protein
They are
and
not
fat.
out. They are not in any of those Eat Clean books.
It's good fat though.
Chapter 5, pork scratchings.
It's good fat. Pig fat is good
It's
fat.
not good fat.
It is.
Sure, it's great fat. But anyway.
Anything that you buy
Look, if there's
from
any
behind a
nutritionists
pub
listening,
bar is not good fat.
I'm going to acknowledge that. What about nuts?
What about them?
They're
Nuts.
good fat.
Basically everything except the peanut is pretty good, yeah.
Okay.
Well, we've had a text.
Peanuts.
Also, you
apparently.
get to see that woman in the bikini if you buy enough packets.
Exactly.
I mean, let's look up. Anyway,
Not to
Esma,
be
thanks
argued
very
with.
much for sending me some superfood and a Doctor Who book and a mug with the Black Country.
We had a lot of pork
pictures.
scratchings. We
Black
had a
Country
pork
alphabet.
scratching text this morning.
Did we?
Did we?
Good morning, Frank. Talking of pigs, have you ever done the pork scratching tour at the KVE factory in Tipton?
I never
We
have.
did it as kids in the 1980s, and I can't read the rest of that now because this has gone
Because
mad.
they
So I
collapse
just-
from
really
salt,
fresh?
over salt.
Yeah, it's refresh, love.
I acknowledge that there's a lot
Here
of
we go.
salt.
It's back now. We did it as kids in the 80s. Well, I say tour. We used to go through the skip outside and get reject bags out and sell them in the pub in Owen Street.
Well, that
Phil
sounds
J.
good. That is
It's a lovely story.
entrepreneurial, I think.
It is.
On the subject of women in bikinis, we've had an
What?
email.
Hey.
You heard. We've had an email
I'm working
from a
in a
lady
garage.
who must have been listening a few weeks back, saying swimming dates a few weeks back.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember we discussed the
This-
benefits
No, I
of
don't
an
want to
early
talk
date
about
going
this
swimming?
because you two disgusted me.
Emily
You were
got
horrified.
furious.
The email begins, thought this will interest or horrify you if you're Emily. Had a third date with a man last week which ended up in my hot tub. Nothing
Awful.
sleazy, and as a woman, well, nothing sleazy, hot tub, nothing sleazy, and as a woman in her late 40s, I'm not without the jiggle, to be honest. He's younger
What
and
does that mean?
I don't know.
he's younger and a lot firmer. She says
Sounds
a lot,
like an underground magazine.
he's younger and a
It's
lot
in the
fitter.
jiggle this week. I don't know if they get away with it.
Reed Firmer, not an issue, and I'm meeting his kids tomorrow. All went rather well, I think. So it's not,
I'm glad to hear
it's
that.
not a downer. Like, an early swimming day can be...
But if she'd seen any unsightly scars, she wouldn't be meeting his kids this week, you know. You've got to find out early.
Oh, you two are disgusting.
I'm not.
You are.
Because it's a two-way street. Men look at
No,
women,
it's not, because women don't judge men in that way.
Get out of it.
It's true.
She said he's younger and a lot fitter, so she's judged him in some way.
I once sat with a woman at Warwick University, and I was, although I say it shouldn't, being not only fascinating but highly amusing. And I realised she was looking over my shoulder as I spoke, and I looked round and there was a man with no shirt on digging a hole.
Yes.
And he had a fantastic physique, and I thought that's what we have to accept. They say...
Well, that's fine.
They say they get laughed into bed, but the truth is, it's muscles they're after.
It's not. You see more ugly men with pretty women. Hi, Kath.
Yes, you do see that.
She's listening at home.
And
it's not true. I think you're very
poor,
attractive.
Ugly men? Discuss.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So, Frank, we've been talking about rough books.
Oh, yeah.
415 has texted us. In my rough book, I had copied a sick note from my mother for future use. My teacher found it, and needless to say, I wasn't off sick for the rest of that year. Love, Becky.
But you don't write a sick note on your rough book page. You're asking for trouble.
No,
for goodness
you can't do that.
Well, she learned that lesson, didn't she, Becky?
She did.
Indeed. Or maybe she thought it was a feeling rough book.
Oh, yes.
Feeling rough.
Oh, by excellent work.
Frank, Laura Ferguson has tweeted us.
Laura Ferguson.
Took about 10 minutes to get it.
Laura Ferguson from the 3 Degrees. Oh, that's Sarah Ferguson.
I'm off to a Wild West fair and food festival today. Fancy trying out your everyday cowboy outfit? I think she's asking you out on a date. I don't know if you'll have to be naked.
No, but the point is that wouldn't be an everyday cowboy outfit, because that would be going to an event that's Wild West themed.
I see.
My thing is, you know, maybe I've got an interview with Simon Mayo and I turned up as a ranch hand for no reason at all. That's the liberation of fancy dress that I'm trying to achieve. I'm thinking now, what about if I had an Absolute Radio tattoo with the Absolute Radio logo?
That would be, yeah, I mean, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'll love it forever, but it's an important part of my life.
Don't let us stop you, that would be my,
But where will I put the purple pointy bit?
It's the eternal question, Frank.
Yeah, I'll just move it to one side. Be fine.
God.
Skinner, Dean and Cochrane. Together, The Frank Skinner Show.
Absolute Radio.
I believe we were considering sashaying towards Email Corner, which we haven't done for a while, have we? Good, that, isn't it? Dear Frank, Emily and Alan, my grandma used to sing Green Teeth. I don't know the tune for Green Sleeves. It says to the tune of Green Sleeves.
You don't know the tune for Green Sleeves?
I don't. I can't remember it.
That's my bay.
Go on, give us it.
Henry VIII.
Oh, yeah.
Give us the tune.
Green Sleeves. Frank.
So what did she sing?
She used to sing Green Teeth.
Green teeth in your horrible mouth. That's the trouble, we're not living down south. We don't have a toothbrush in our street, and the only one we had we used for doing the Alsatians' feet.
Very good. My grandma used to sing Green Teeth to the tune of Green Sleeves when we were kids and hadn't brushed our teeth in the morning. And she would go on singing it until we gave in and brushed them. Oh. She would also sing The Mother's Lament, which I also do not know, but I'll bet you do.
No, I don't know The Mother's Lament.
Your baby has gone down the plug hole.
Is that what it is?
Well, that's what she sung. I thought that was My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean.
Oh, yeah, you're right. She would sing The Mother's Lament whilst bathing us and then delight in pulling the plug out whilst singing the chorus, Your baby has gone down the plug hole, your baby has gone down the plug. The poor little thing was so skinny and thin it should have been washed in a jug. Lovely woman apart from that. That's what it says. And that's from Dale.
I like the sound of that, Grandma.
I do. My dad used to sing a thing called Ike McGleggin.
What was that?
Well, it basically went, Ike McGlegging, Ike McGlegging. And then it went, I took him to school and he stood like a fool and wet right down his legging.
Oh, God.
There were simpler times.
There were.
We didn't know, you see.
Tony Adams.
Didn't know the damage that was being done.
No.
My grandmother used to sing Hey Big Spender, but that's another story.
Was your grandmother Shirley Bassey?
Good
No.
song.
That would be a great revelation. We had a bloke live next door called Ernie Weston, and the only song he ever sang was, I've never heard it in any other context, but you'd hear him get up in the morning and you'd hear him in the yard, and it used to go, Little Georgie Washington never told a lie. Little Georgie Washington never told a lie. Little Georgie Washington never told a lie. Little Georgie Washington. That was all. That was it. Over and over and over. And that's where I think I've got my interest in American history from.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
He should have got some writers in for that.
I think I used to know people in those days who they had one song that they sing that you associated them with.
Yeah,
People sang more, see. We didn't have the Walkmans.
that's true.
Is it Walkmans or Walkmen? What's the plural for a Sony Walkman?
I don't know, darling. No one's used
12,
it.
15. 12, 15. Sony Discman, Sony Discmen. Sony Walkman, Sony Walkmen. You decide.
Now, we've got another email. Have we got time for this email?
There's always
Okay.
time.
Hi, y'all.
Susie.
Just catching up on the podcast and listening to you suggest a brown envelope as a cup of tea colour.
Yes, that's
Great
what I do. If
suggestion.
someone says, you want a cup of tea? I say, yes, brown envelope, please. And then they know what colour to go for.
Very
Helpful.
good.
Wouldn't you say, Sarah?
Although
Yeah.
in the
I
modern
thought you were
world,
requesting payment from Absolute Radio.
in the modern world, people probably think it's some kind of special tea that you're after. No, brown envelope tea for me.
Well, Sam says, I think I've got
Flown
another
in from
alternative
Manila.
to this. How about using biscuit colours as a description, e.g. rich tea, hobnob and ginger nut?
Ah.
I like it.
So if you didn't have milk, it'd be a bourbon.
Yes. And also you could actually use two biscuits. You could say somewhere between nice and ginger nut, please.
Oh, I
You know,
like that.
Nice
Oh, yeah.
biscuit.
Oh, I think they are called nice, aren't they? I think it's a
Are
myth
they?
that they come from Nice.
Is it?
I'd
Some
go
rubbish.
Maryland chocolate chip cookie, hold the chocolate chip.
Ah.
So I like the colour of the biscuit, but not the chip.
There's a
have them-
moment when every cup of tea is an Oreo.
Yes.
When
Oh,
the
yeah,
milk, the
Frank,
milk is there, and
yes.
then... Yeah.
Yes.
I drink a strawberry fruit tea, but I'm unusual in that I put milk in it. So I just say I'll have a Jolly Dodger, please.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
one. What about... But the trouble is, if you say, oh, I'd love a nice cup of tea, people are going to think, oh, we want a really milky one,
Yeah.
so it looks like it. That's the trouble.
That's
I
the
go for
downside.
Flower and Ball paint colours, mole's breath.
I'll have a cup of tea at O'Donnell.
Yeah, lovely, Frank.
Yeah. Eggshell. What about... do you remember the old joke about the bloke who goes to the barbers and said, I'd like my hair cut like James Dean? And the bloke completely shaves his head, totally. And he says, what have you done? Don't you know who James Dean is, what he looks like? And the bloke says, yeah, of course I do. I've seen him 15 times in The King and I. It's a Yul Brynner joke, which I admit is not very topical, but my point is that people might think they know what a biscuit is, but there could be confusion. Are you with me?
Meanwhile, 091 says, Frank, what's a Sony Walkman? So,
Well-
one of our centennials listening
Yeah.
there over in Telford.
Yeah, I tell you something, a Sony Walkman was the soundtrack to my life for so many years. But I was in
I
Hereford.
thought it was the gramophone.
I was in Hereford the other night, and I went to the pedestrianised town centre at about 10 o'clock at night, and I saw 3 youths sitting around a ghetto blaster.
Brilliant. Old school.
This is 2016.
Old school.
Absolutely.
Were they breakdancing? Was
No,
there
they
any
were
kind of
they were
bopping happening?
slouching.
Oh, that
It's
is
the
a shame.
traditionalists.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even know you could still get them. I thought they'd all have one, say, tiny iPod thing, and then they'd have some sort of tri-ear plug.
Like a Bluetooth thing.
Yeah, so they were all joined to it, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's a trendy thing. It's like a retro. Back in
think so?
fashion, yeah.
You've been to Hereford?
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
I just wanted to hark back to that email that we just discussed about drinking tea that's coloured like rich tea, hobnob, ginger nut, etc. It's It's from Sam, this email, and he says, reader number 1251. He adds, P.S. My dad has recorded the dates he changed the battery in his radio since 1985.
Oh, I love him.
I would like to see that ledger book.
I'd love to see that
excellent,
ledger,
isn't it?
Frank.
It's a rough book.
Well, we should say to new readers that we've been discussing what people keep a record of. Didn't we get an email that somebody...
No, I had a man in the audience, remember, who kept a log of every film he'd seen at the cinema.
That's right.
Oh,
When
yeah.
he saw it, what time of night.
We've
Yeah.
also had people record the dates that ants start flying each year
Yes.
as well.
Oh, Flying Ant Day. I get an
Flying
alert
Ant
every
Day.
year about that.
I am quite... I
think we missed it this year.
I do find that exciting, I must admit.
Very exciting.
My dad, when he took the batteries out of anything, used to put them in a box, keep them all, but it wasn't
Oh,
a box,
what
it was sort of a
for?
tub, because he always figured if you had 2, 3 batteries, maybe they hadn't all gone.
Right.
And one day he was going to get around to testing them all individually and see if there was any left with any life in them, but he never got round to that.
I think we've discussed this previously, but I always love the little cushion on the top of the battery. You know,
Oh,
the black
yeah.
leather cushion.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that
On
about?
certain gadgets, it's got a little...
that
The black leather cushion.
Yes.
It's a bit your friends in the S&M community, Frank.
It is. It's like a wired cushion that you fit onto the top of it. Yeah.
I mean, why? Why some machines? Not
No,
all?
I'd forgotten all about that. It's a lovely little springiness to it.
Lovely action.
Yeah, I think that was the forebear of the soft play centre.
That's
What,
right.
the black springy battery cushion?
That's where it all began.
That is good. I
The,
get jealous of people that actually write this down.
The SBC,
I think writing
springy
it down,
battery cushion.
writing it down is impressive. Every time I fill my car up, I press the button on the dashboard that puts how far it's gone back to zero, so I know what a full tank gets, like
Wow.
580 miles or 506. But I don't go to the trouble of writing it down because I haven't got that commitment that they've got, and I
No,
admire them
that's-
for it.
Well, when
What
I take you
about-
out for one of my test drives,
What
you're
about-
going to
Look
have
forward
to.
to that.
What
If
about when
we
I
ask-
take Alun out in a Ferrari?
If we ask our readers to send in their discarded SBCs, their springy battery covers, and we could use it to line your martial arts studio so people don't get hurt if they're thrown up against the wall.
What
I
if
would love
people
that.
actually send them in? Or,
would love
Frank,
that.
we could record another little song for the European Championships this year, because they're like egg boxes on the recording studio.
Yeah, or we could maybe make a sprung dance floor. We could be
Lovely.
made
We'd
out
have
of
to
that.
get a lot. Send them in.
429.
Don't send them
actually,
in.
Don't send in your springy battery covers. That was light-heartedness. Okay, Sarah Champion is coming up, and thank you so much for listening this morning. It's a really, really sad day because one of the great men of all time has died. But this is a comedy show, and thank you for listening. And if the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. Now get out.
The Frank Skinner Show on Absolute Radio. Back Saturday morning from 8. Tune in live for the full Frank experience.
Absolute Radio.